Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at the recent sales over at Heritage Auctions. They had a very small, kind of compact Star Wars auction that ended last night, April 20th. And while this lot was not that exciting relative to some of the stuff that we've seen from Hakes and Heritage lately, Heritage does have a May the 4th auction coming that has some incredible stuff. So assuming my work schedule allows, tomorrow I will release a video previewing the incredible stuff that's coming in the May the 4th celebration auction from Heritage. There's some really nice stuff in that auction, so be sure to tune in tomorrow to check that out. So this auction, you know, there wasn't really anything too crazy in it, but there were some very nice items. The prices were, for the most part, at market value or below. So all of the prices I'm going to quote include the buyer's premium after, you know, the final bid. So first one is a 20-back G Greedo AFA70. So not the highest grade in the world, but very clean, clear blister with, you know, punched example and no price sticker on the card. The card got a 75, blister 70, figure 85. It's hard to tell exactly why this one got the 70. It looks like it's got a pretty major crunch at the top of the blister. So you can see that there at the very top of the blister. It's basically crunched in. So that one sold after the BP at $450, which I think is pretty fair. I mean, that's probably about right. In higher grade, I've seen these sell for big boy money, you know, closer to $2,000. So for an AFA70, probably about right. They had an AFA80 20-back G R5D4. Very nice example. Price sticker upper right from Children's Palace. Punched example. And this one sold, the subgrades were 80, 80, 85. And that one sold for $812.50, which I consider that to be a pretty good deal. That's a pretty fair deal, pretty good deal if you ask me. You can see there the blister maybe had some kind of weird crunch going on. Let's see if we can get a close-up there. So yeah, you can see there it's got a little bit of rippling on the top of the pretty fairly pronounced ding actually at the top of the blister. The grading companies I think were a little generous on the 80 sub-score for the blister, but you know it's not terrible. But I do want to note that that blister structure was a little more dinged than I would expect for them to give an 80 grade to, and that's probably what kept the price down just a little bit. But you know, usually 20-back Gs, AFA 80 for R5D4, you can usually count on $1,000 or more. But that one definitely sold about 20% less than that, and I think it's because, aesthetically speaking, you know, the blister seemed a little bit more dented than what you would expect from an 80 subscore. The Hammerhead was a very nice AFA75, AFA75, 20-back G as well. That one sold for $512.50. Very fair price if you're, you know, if you can live with the 75 grades. You know, these are kind of mid-grade items, I would say. And $512.50, pretty good deal. I mean, that's what you could expect to pay for one ungraded for the most part. I thought this was a particularly good deal as well. This was a 20-back G Gestar Droid. That one sold for $612.50. So that one went a lot lower than I was expecting. I would usually expect similar to what the R5D4 sold for, 80, 85, 80. Death Star droids have definitely come back down in price a little bit. And that one sold, again, for $612.50. It was a punched example, no price sticker, though. Nice crystal clear blister. And the Walrus Band was an AFA75. You can see on the card there, it had a pretty pronounced crease on the upper left-hand corner. But the blister was in really good shape overall. Very nice. Again, a punched example, AFA75. Card 75, blister 80, figure 85. Probably graded about right. You know, you could even make an argument that the 75 subscore, because it's on the front of the card and you can really see the white from the crease, that maybe even that one probably deserved a 70 card score. But this grader took mercy on the Walrus Band, $450 on that. Pretty good deal there as well. So, you know, Heritage has had some pretty decent deals here. I thought this was a good deal as well. This was the Empire Strikes Back version of the Millennium Falcon showing the Bespin arrival. I thought that was a really nice deal there. Qualified AFA80, so this was unused contents. but a very, very nice example of the Falcon. The back of this thing was pretty pristine, the line art. And again, qualified example because it had been opened, verified, unused contents, and qualified 80 for 1812.50 for the ESB packaging for the Falcon. I think that's a pretty good deal there. I feel like the ESB packaging is harder to find than the Star Wars packaging for the Falcon. It doesn't seem to pop up as much in high grade like that. So 1812.50 on that one. The Ywing Fighter, this one was AFA 80 plus, factory sealed. That one sold for big money. I'm shocked it went for that much money, $2,000. That's the only one to me, just casually looking at them, that I thought that number seemed a little high to me. But that's just what it went for. So it's, the factory sealed, especially on Heritage, they do tend to command a pretty big premium versus qualified examples. But AFA 80 plus, it was a beauty. It was very, very nice. But $2,000 is probably more than I'd personally spend on it. I'd rather spend the $1812.50 on the qualified Empire Strikes Back Falcon versus this. Because I think that if you're patient, you could probably find an 80-ish grade factory sealed Ywing Fighter just on eBay. I mean, they pop up occasionally in pretty high grade. And I don't think you'd need to spend more than $1,500 max. That's just my personal opinion. And I am not a vehicle expert, okay? I've never collected them really. So take that for what you will. But just based on the numbers rattling around in my brain, $1,100, $1,200, $1,500 tops for a factory sealed Y-Wing that is in near mint plus, or near mint anyway, near mint to near mint plus condition, which is about what an 80 plus is. I don't think you need to spend $2,000, but again, that's just me. The Scout Walker, this one was also, I believe, factory sealed. Factory sealed AFA 80. The ATST Chicken Walker, that one sold for $812.50. I thought that was pretty fair. It's probably about right for a factory sealed example. And the Collector Series Landspeeder, this was also a qualified 80. That sold for $643.75. Again, probably about right. Factory sealed examples, which again are not hard to find, typically are in an 80 grade are typically $900 to $1,000. That's kind of what we've seen on eBay anyway. Not a hard item to find factory seal, but for a qualified example, $643.75 after the buyer's premium, pretty good deal. This was a 75 plus Rancor Monster, again factory sealed for $462.50, a very good deal there. That's about the going rate for a factory sealed ungraded example, so I thought that was a good deal. The Ewok Combat Glider sold for $275. That was an AFA 80. And again, probably about right, usually about $300 for the Ewok Combat Glider factory sealed in a high grade. So again, a very fair price there. The Bwing Fighter sold for $1,000, and I would argue that that's probably about right. We've seen these on eBay in my market updates. Factory sealed examples ungraded go for $1,100. So for an AFA 80, I thought that was a pretty good deal. This one had the KB Toy sticker about the batteries. I don't know if you guys remember those growing up. Let's see there. KB Toys recommends. I remember those stickers all the time. I just thought that was kind of cool. So $12.99 is what somebody originally paid for this thing, which was more than 50% off. So that's crazy that those sold for so cheap. But that one sold again for $1,000. So pretty good deal there for an AFA 80. And then on to some mint on cards. There weren't a ton, other than those 20 and 20, those 20 backs that we looked at. There weren't a lot of other mint on cards in this auction. This was an AFA 85 77 back A prune face, obviously yellowed blister as 99.9% of them are. That one was a punched example and sold for $129. Pretty good deal there. This was an AFA 75 tri-logo ATST driver. And obviously not the highest grade with some major denting to the blister. $164 on that one. They had an AFA 75 77 back B Darth Vader. The punch was kind of loose around the punch tab, hang tab. This was a yellowed example with a pretty ugly price sticker on top of the Anakin offer. And that one sold for $387.50. $387.50. They had a yellowed 80 Barada Power of the Force punched example. That one sold for $325. Again, probably about right and pretty similar price to what we see in our eBay auction market updates. And we had an Ewoks Lady Gornes, and that was an AFA75. This was the Canada version as well. And that one sold for $139, which I thought was a pretty decent deal there. Heavy fading to the card. You can see the card back had some sun fading going on. At least it looks that way to me. And that was probably why it got the card score for a 75. Blister 85, figure 85. But that, you know, that card was really heavily faded, sun faded. So that kept the overall score down to a 75. And then finally, there was a lot of 5 different droids ungraded. They had Tig From with a pretty messed up card back, Jor Dusat, Thal Jobin, Kiamal, and then Jan Tosh. So all of these were not really grade-worthy condition. They all had some issues, except for maybe the Thal Jobin, which was in pretty decent shape. But all 5 of those together sold for $968.75 in an auction. So again, be sure to tune in tomorrow. I'm assuming I'll have time before this video airs to film one for the May the 4th auction, kind of preview the incredible items in that. There are some heaters, absolute heaters. So between Heritage and Hakes with the Jeff Jacobs Part 2 auction, there is plenty of stuff there are plenty of things to spend your money on in these 2 auctions with very, very high-end items that are going to be all ending in May. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave me a like if you did. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.